Hey everyone, it's time to Nefis and chill. Earlier today, I was cooking while I was reading the PTS patch notes on live stream. It was quite hectic, and I don't think a lot of my viewers on YouTube would really appreciate the very hectic and chaotic nature of me reading the PTS patch notes while making a lot of food in the kitchen, so I figured I'd do a little voiceover along with a little recording of the PTS patch notes visually as well, overlaid on top of the cooking and food. The food was delicious, by the way. But yeah, let's get to it. So, welcome to version 8.2.0. This is the PTS patch notes for update 36, otherwise known as the Firesong DLC. It is the last quarter DLC of this year for the Legacy of the Bretons year-long story for the Elder Scrolls Online, and is the last update for the year of 2022 for ESO until update 37 in quarter 1, sometime in late January most likely. But yeah, let's get to it. So there will be new item sets. Overland sets in particular are going to include light, medium, and heavy as usual. The first one is going to be the light armor set called Back Alley Gourmand. It's going to give you 2 stats of critical chance, weapon and spell damage from 2 to 4 piece bonuses, and while you have a food buff active, your critical damage and critical healing is increased by 13%. It's really interesting to see them continuously target the critical damage cap, but also the lack of cap on critical healing. I believe, if I recall correctly, if that is still the case, I think this is more of a solo kind of set, or potentially a set where they're looking at perhaps light armor users and saying, okay, well, the medium armor passive gives you the critical damage buff or passive buff, and light armor doesn't. Although it's kind of, I guess it's trying to play off of the weakness of light armor, if there is such a thing, depending on the context in which you're using this set, or perhaps other light armor sets. Not exactly sure if you would replace the entire 5-piece set, given that, you know, they did nerf damage for update 35, and if you want more damage, you're probably gonna be pushed more towards, you know, proc sets, and sets that will give you more damage, rather than something that gives you critical damage by 13% if you're wearing this set, and it's also light armor. I guess I can see it, since again, you can't really achieve on your own the critical damage cap of 125%. So again, it's nice, it's interesting, but probably not optimal if that's what you're into. The medium armor set, Phoenix Moth Dirge, gives you a stamina recovery, maximum stamina. Healing yourself or an ally grants the target minor courage and minor force for 10 seconds, increasing their weapon and spell damage by 215, and their critical damage done by 10%. This effect can occur once every 12 seconds per target, so it has an effective cooldown of 2 seconds every time it procs on, I guess, one person. It says healing yourself or an ally. I'm not sure exactly how useful this is. Again, they're targeting the critical damage cap with minor force, even though you can get minor force pretty easily via other means, you know, trap, channel acceleration, minor courage. Again, there's better sources of this, I guess, unless you're not really into, you know, wearing sets or certain things for it. But it is interesting to note that this is for a medium armor set, so they might be looking at some sort of stam healing variant here. I'm not sure. It's interesting yet again, but is it useful? We'll see. Could be something for PvP. The heavy armor set from Overland is going to be called Bastion of Dwaif. Not sure if I pronounced that right. It's going to be max stamina, max health, max stamina. Blocking attack grants you a stack of inflection for 10 seconds, up to 3 stacks max. You can gain up to 1 stack every half second. Increase your magicka and stamina recovery by 106 per stack of inflection.
Nefis, yo bitch ass, you're next.
I have no idea. I think someone just followed me on Twitch, even though I'm not live on stream. Excuse the audio intrusion. Hopefully no one else follows me on Twitch. Okay, so crafting set-wise, it's going to be Chimera's Rebuke. We're going to give max magicka, max health, max stamina. Again, you can craft these sets in any weight, light, medium, or heavy. 5th piece bonus says, gaining resources from a fully charged heavy attack also restores 2,363 of the gain resource to the 3 allies nearest target. It's a really interesting set because, number one, I think it offers not just the creative side of the items that designers at ZOS, But I think there could be more things that they could do with this seemingly new tech that they keep tinkering around with for some of the recent sets in the past year or so. I mean, if you can gain resources from someone else's fully charged heavy attack for their stamina or magicka, you could potentially do it if you spend resources as well, perhaps in a future item set. But yeah, it basically means melee-based weapons. If you heavy attack with them, you get stam, right? So you'll give stam back to 3 people in your group. If you're heavy attacking with a staff or wrestle staff, lightning staff, etc., you're gonna be giving back magicka back to your group, including yourself, of course. I think this is a pretty interesting set, and I'm not sure if this is gonna be something for PvE, but I can imagine this in like a ball group for PvP potentially. It's kind of infinite sustain in a way. If you maybe have like 1 or 2 people running this in some scenarios, potentially. The second set is called Old Growth Brewer. Stamina recovery, magicka recovery, health recovery. After drinking a potion, gain 245 magicka stamina and health recovery for 45 seconds, so you can keep up 100% uptime on Old Growth Brewer. I'm not exactly sure how useful that extra 379 magicka stamina and health recovery is from wearing this complete set. But I think it will depend on the build and of course the food, like Orzorga's, depending on, again, some things. I think it's interesting yet again, but I'm not sure. Next set is the Claw of the Forest Wraith. Adds critical chance, weapon and spell damage, critical chance, and adds 2,037 critical chance to your class abilities. This is either really OP or really underwhelming, depending on what you use it for. I think it might be really useful for certain classes like Sorcerer. I mean, you have to kind of think about who would have the most class abilities, right? Or what kind of abilities as well are they using? I think this could be potentially a strong set, depending on how you're using it. This will probably need some more testing. We'll see. But yeah, that's a lot of crit. And stack that with Thief Mundus, Divines, I mean, yeah, that's quite a bit of crit. So yeah, let's move on to the mythic item sets. Set pieces. So we have the medium chest. It's called Fawn's Lark Cladding. If you continuously sprint for 1 second, you can gain the ability to pass through enemies. Enemies you pass through become charmed for 4 seconds, removing their ability to attack or cast abilities as they move toward you. Charming an enemy this way restores 678 stamina and magicka to you and heals you for 678 health. Charming an enemy removes you from stealth. I feel like this is a really interesting set, but I feel like it's a very loaded set in terms of mechanical design. I have a feeling this mythic will probably bug out a lot because there's so many like moving parts here. Like first you need to be sprinting, then you need to go through the enemies, and then they can't attack or cast anything as they move towards you. For PvP, I feel like this is gonna be pretty decent. For PvE, it could be an interesting concept to tinker around with, depending on the content. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure about this mythic. It's interesting, again, but not sure yet. After some, we will just need to test it. But yeah, let's move on to the next mythic. It's called the Stormweavers Cavort, and it's light legs. It adds 300 magicka recovery, sprint, roll dodge, bash, break free, sneak, and block, basically the core combat actions. Now consume magicka instead of stamina. You cannot regain magicka while blocking, sneaking, or sprinting. You can gain stamina while blocking, sneaking, or sprinting. This is, I think, a really cool and really interesting mythic because of the way that it offers the alternative to people who may spec higher into magicka attribute. So, obviously, as is tradition with ESO, core combat actions like breaking free, bashing, sneaking, roll dodging, sprinting, with the exception of block sometimes being relegated to the ice stat passive, cost stamina. So in some patches and some cases, you would have people probably be at a disadvantage if they were magicka based, particularly in PvP content or PvP open world, because, well, you're max orc, you're running around with mostly max magicka, only have so much to play around with your stamina pool to continuously roll, dodge, sprint, and so forth. So I think this is a really nice alternative. In the other case, however, you might say that it is better to be Magicka spec because you can specifically reserve your stamina for the core combat actions, and you effectively play between two pools rather than a stamina-based character that will have to conserve stamina to, for these core combat actions while still spamming abilities, right? That cost stamina. So it can go either way, but I really like this mythic, primarily because it gives you the freedom to decide, okay, well, I can use Magicka or I can use stamina. And I think it's really interesting the way they did it. I also would say that it giving you greater magic recovery, I'm sure some people will look at that and be like, well, that's a little underwhelming. I feel like this is a good mythic because it's not too overbearing on people who are going to be playing around with this initially or even for a while, because 300 magic recovery, I think, will help with adjusting to the mythic for a lot of people, a lot of players. And the fact that you can't regain Magicka anyway, while, magic recovery, while blocking, sneaking, or sprinting, just the way stamina works right now with the core combat actions is it's a pretty good trade-off, right? And the fact that you can still gain, stamina recovery while blocking, sneaking, or sprinting, I mean, it's gonna be really interesting to play around with, and it's gonna be really interesting to see what kind of builds people come up with for this one. Last mythic is called Cerebane's Ward. It's a heavy belt, and I think this might be a really OP mythic. I mean, depending on the content in PvE, and I think it's gonna be too much for PvP. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you. You cannot move while bracing. Bracing is their fancy word for blocking. While bracing, you create a 12-meter zone of protection. Allies within that 12-meter zone increases their block mitigation by 30% and their health recovery by 950. Okay, yeah, I'm just trying to think of like trials and certain dungeons where like you may need the entire group may need to block at times. I mean, that's quite a bit. 30% more block mitigation and almost 1,000 health recovery. And for PvP, it's like you could just troll hordes of players with this if you organize like a group and just bait bombs with it. I mean, it's gonna be pretty interesting to look at for sure. I don't know. I think this will probably get nerfed. But the developer comment says the block mitigation and health recovery only affects allies and not the set wearer. Use the shield wall with this ability at your own risk, as you won't be able to move for the duration of the ultimate. Pretty cool how that ultimate will interact with that, because I mean, you are technically blocking with ultimate. You just can't move while casting the ultimate. So the wearer will not get the block mitigation. It's kind of like the weak spot, right? The Achilles heel of the group, if you're going to coordinate on this set. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be like a tanky meta next patch for PvP, depending on the other changes, but we'll see. Okay, so the Druid King patron deck. So, this is pretty interesting. They didn't really like give too much information about the patron deck. I think they just want people to go on PTS and test it. Good news. The ESOU professor of Tales of Tribute, Pink Apple, who got #1 on the rank leaderboards in Tales of Tribute on PCNA and PCEU at the exact same time. I think the last patch, or was it? Yeah, I think it was last patch. Yeah, it was last patch. They actually went on to PTS, and they've been tinkering around with it. And apparently, these cards can be played or work during enemy turns. That's pretty interesting. And your power and coin both stay until your turn when you play these during the enemy's turn. I think this is I think that definitely adds a lot of depth to it. I mean, it's kind of like, what is that, like Yu-Gi-Oh with the trap cards or something, right? I don't know. I'm kind of interested actually in this deck because I played a fair amount of Tales of Tribute during the Untitled Chapter launch and of course during the patch, as you guys know. So yeah, I don't know. That's some information you guys might be curious about if you don't have the PTS. We do have new collectibles and dies. We do have new antiquities, including a music box, called Blessings of Stone, and there is going to be a skin available from discovering an antiquity lead. you know, we always say that, hey, you know, you guys should, you know, Zos, hey, you know, you should put more skins and rewards and actual stuff that people want into the game. Of course, I'm a big fan of raiding and trials, and while it is not my preferred system of getting rewards from, this is okay. You know, I can accept it. That's cool that people who enjoy antiquities can get it, and I'll probably go for it too. Whatever, right? Hopefully we can see that for more areas of the game at more higher frequencies. Alright, anyway, new furnishings. There's a lot of additions to the furnishing loot table with the new Gallon-styled plans. Gallon referring to the island zone that you will be going to for the Firesong DLC. We can also have 5 new Firesong Druidic style furnishings and new tapestries from the Tribute Reward purses. Here's some titles for some achievements. There's 45 new achievements and 4 new titles. The Guardian Gallon, the Mighty Magma, Sower's Savior, and the Eye of the Queen. Probably reference to Razum Dar, who you'll meet during the storyline. Alright, let's get to the juiciest part of the patch notes, the base game updates and the combat updates. The target marker system, I'll make an entire YouTube video dedicated to showcasing how the target marker system works. I already have a bunch of feedback planned for the devs, I feel like, in that video coming up this week probably, about the target marker system. I am really glad that they are coming out with this target marker system. I would really like to see in the future, and I'm sure there's various reasons why they wouldn't or couldn't implement it at this time, but ground pinging, and ground pinging I feel like is really essential for ESO in terms of group coordination, especially in groups where you may not be in voice chat together, right? Or even if you are in voice chat together, you can still more easily show people where to stand, or hey, or tank, you can hold the boss here. And there are so many instances where I have to explain to my raid team, or perhaps former raid team, and my tanks, like, where to go, and it's like, well, if I go there, if I want to show you, right, I'm going to pull the boss, right? I don't want to do that. So I would really love a ground ping system, but we'll see what happens here. Hiding pets in town, yep, that's right. So you can actually hide pets in towns by turning an option on called Limit Followers in Towns. You cannot see people's assistants, companions, warden bears, sork pets, vanity pets, and certain other things in the game, as long as you're within the area of influence near the daily crafting writ boards, the daily crafting writ turn-in crates, and basic crafting stations. However, if a player gets into a duel and you have the option on and you can't see their pets, those pets will reappear if they're dueling. So yeah, that's pretty much it for that. Kind of curious why they didn't just implement a game-wide hide pets or limit followers. Potentially could be a problem, I suppose. They do have it in the API for like things like hide group, but I feel like they probably have to do it in a roundabout way, so maybe that's why they didn't do it. Alright, here's the housing quality of life improvements. No, you're not upping your 700 furnishing limit to 1400, unfortunately. At least until they drop the support for the old gen of consoles. But yeah, here we can see that the guest decorators in your houses can access a retrieval tab. Doesn't mean they can just put your stuff in their inventory and just pour it out. It just means they can just modify set destination or precisely edit like the alignment of those things. There's also going to be displays that will identify which house you're currently in. Also, the account name of the owner of the house. And this is my favorite part about this. You can now share links to any of your homes via chat or the guild message of the day. So this is going to be really useful for my guild, where we do have this information already, but we say like port 2 at NFSQS for the guild hall. Well, they would have to look for my name on the roster and blah blah blah. Well, why not just link it in the chat or the guild message of the day or in the about us? That'll be nice. They have also added the ability for us to cycle through targets using the tab key in the housing editor selection mode. Decorators, visitors, and limited visitors will now be able to view the list of furnishings placed in the house. So if you've ever wondered what that furnishing is, you can actually see what the heck that is. And they will also, I guess decorators will be able to place map markers on any furnishing or path node in the list of furnishings placed in the house. So that's nice, cool. That's pretty cool too. And we also do have the ability to set furnishings that hang on walls to align better with the wall. And looks like this is like a new tech 40 housing devs, and they just added this to a bunch of decor. Furniture item tooltips will now include the furniture subcategory and under the category on the top left of the furnishing tooltip. And they slow the speed at which the furnishing preview can remove when flipping between furnishings. Emperor scaling Zerodead, I'm sure some of you may have seen like this kind of going around on Twitter or on YouTube. But yeah, they are changing how the Emperor passive scales or works in Zerodead. It's been a while since we've heard of the Emperor passives and Emperor scale line, I guess, since its nerfs back in, I think, like 2016 or 2017. And ever since then, like, I feel like the power creep went to such a point where you would only like really notice that you're fighting an Emp, like if they had really high health, but also like really high sustain and moderate damage, right? Like, so I think a lot of players technically could be considered Emperor nowadays. You don't necessarily need Emperor to even kill an Emperor, so that's how far we've come. But then looks like they're targeting the Emperor scaling. So the health bonus for having an Emperor crown for your lines will now scale depending on how many home or natively owned keeps you have controlled by your lions. If you own all 6 of your home keeps, you'll get the full bonus as Emperor, but for each of those you don't own, the health bonus is reduced. The Emperor passes also now scale in a similar way to the alliance-wide health bonus. For each of the 6 home keeps your alliance owns, the bonus will be up to its full value. Okay. For each one that is not owned by your alliance, the passive benefits are reduced. Interesting. I think this is what? For example, if you own all of your home keeps, you get the full bonus as Emperor. So a losing Emperor is nerfed in terms of the passives or the health bonus. And if for each of the 6 home keeps your alliance owns, the bonus will be up to its full value. But the passive benefits are reduced. Interesting. Okay. I think this can go either way, for sure, depending on who's winning or who's losing on the map. Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. Some scaling values may not currently display properly. Okay, cool. They've also added Armory Stations to the PvP zones of Zerodead and Imperial City, or Imperial Sewer home base. That's pretty interesting. They also are interesting customized actions, and I think I've shown you guys in the previous video what that looks like on the ESOU website when we were recording all these announcements that they were making during the ESO live stream. I'll make a separate video about this as well. The daily login reward timer change. Now it's 3 AM UTC for European servers and 10 AM UTC for North American servers, regardless of the region. That's nice. I feel like for EU, I think it was more biased towards NA times. There's going to be confirmed event testing. I think this was data mined as well right before update 36, and I'll also make a video about the data mine for those of you interested in looking at the cosmetics and stuff coming out through the Crown Store and stuff, or even general information that was data mined. Alright, so we're going to keep scrolling past through all this. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the food. Alright, so monsters and kinds ages will now have a chance to drop purple gear in Better Moon. That's nice. More antiquity adjustments, and additions of visibility. Okay, well, this is a really nice addition. I feel like they were actually kind of milking, oh god, now I forget his name again. Oh my god. Was it Pippin or Mary from Lord of the Rings? Oh my god, why can't I remember the actor's name? But yeah, they had that dude, right? Voice Bragas, Tales of Tribute. Oh my god, it's just not coming to me. I'm so sorry. I'm sure someone in YouTube comments will be like, yeah, you forgot his name. This is his name. But yeah, oh god, just won't come to... anyway, so I feel like they were milking that a lot and just wanted to make sure everybody, like, listened to him, or at least, like, got their full value out of hiring him to voice act Bragas. But looks like now, after two entire patches, we can now skip that, in my opinion, not great tutorial, a really boring tutorial, on any other character. As long as we complete it on at least one character in your account. I don't know why it wasn't like this before, but I assume that's my theory. According to my theory, I think I know why. Some Tribute NPC opponents are now a little bit smarter. Tribute now has its own gameplay musical score. Oh, that's cool. Okay. Improve the messaging when Tribute mentions are not available. Okay, and to just adjust some other things. Looks like there's a bunch of Tales of Tribute buffs / nerfs. I mean, I think it's at this point we could cover it if you guys want. I mean, last time we covered it, people were like, "Oh, who cares?" But I'm like, I don't know. I see a lot of people keep playing the card game, even though a lot of people don't play it or don't seem to like it. But yeah, reduce gold gain from 5 to 4 for Grand Larceny. Okay, added on combo 2. Opponent loses 1 prestige. Interesting. The Halalu currency exchange reduced the gold gain from 5 to 4. Reduced to replace a card from tavern from 2 cards to 1. Oh, they nerfed both. Okay. The Hunting's cards were reduced in terms of power gain. Well, except the Marchand Hatu combo 2. Let's see. You'll now select between gain 3 power and gain 3 gold for Warrior Wave. Okay. Organum deck. I know a lot of Tales of Tribute players or people, play Tales of Tribute complain a shit ton about Organum. Personally, I don't mind it, but it looks like they have nerfed Organum a little bit. Looks like they did. They reduced the cost to activate Organum's ability while unfavored from 3 to 2, which means you could technically play more Organum Chicken, but at the same time, it's like less costly for the counter player. They also increased the power on play from Serpent Guard Rider from 1 to 2, but they reduced the combo 2 effect. Okay. They reduced the cost of buying the Snakeskin Freebooter from 6 gold to 5. They shifted the 1 prestige from the play effect to combo 2 for Somerset sacking. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think they're definitely listening to the people who are complaining about Organum a little bit. Alright, let's keep going. Question zone improvements. Ah, yes, combat and gameplay, the juicier part of the patch notes. Fixed an issue where some ticking AoEs could delay or miss their first tick, or could apply their effects out of sync with their tick rates. Fixed an issue where rezoning could cause your character to load a different ability in some rare cases. Fixed an issue where break freeze animation could fail to play in situations where your character would be stunned in mid-animation with effects such as time stop. Death recaps will no longer taunt you with the concept of bringing your friend or using the gripping tool for solo arenas, such as Mouse Arena. Okay. Alright, so Dragon Knight. Alright, let's see what changed with Dragon Knight. And as they said in Update 36 Combat Preview, they're not going to change too much, right? Which, it's like a lose-lose. And, fixed an issue that would cause the ability bar timer to reset after recasting the ability to move it. Okay, that's it for Dragon Knight. I think Dragon Knight's in a really good spot right now, honestly. Compared to the other classes. Let's see what they did with Templar. Backlash and its morphs have been slightly reworked. The final damage now deals a guaranteed amount of damage based on your highest defensive stats, rather than dealing damage based on damage it took from you over the duration with a cap based on your weapon or spell damage. The final damage deals approximately 10% more damage than the initial hit at base, and increases up to an additional 200% to reach similar values of power never seen before. Final damage now takes more overall damage to reach to make the payout less reliable reached in PvP scenarios. These abilities are now once again limited to having 1 active at a time to fix numerous exploits and bugs with the ability. Okay. This means if you cast the ability on the nerd target while it is active, it will remove the previous cast. Okay, interesting. Powered Light Morph increases the duration of Minor Breach from this morph to 7 to 10 seconds, up from 6 to 9. This effect is no longer tracked over the base ability with the ability timer option. Okay. I think this is like, okay, I don't know, like, it's hard to say without actually testing it. It seems like it is like better, but on paper at least, but I have a feeling based on what I just read, it may be meh, or like of a buff, or maybe like not too much, but definitely I don't know. I think this requires some testing, so we'll see. Warden, I know a lot of Warden players feel shafted for the past, or at least, for the past patch and a half at least, right? I'm sure some Warden players out there will be like, oh no, it's been longer than that. But yeah, okay, so Advanced Species, this was a controversial passive change during Update 35. I mean, well, it wasn't controversial during Update 35, but this was one of the more controversial ones because they changed it from damage done percentage to penetration. Now it increases your critical damage done by 3%, rather than 990 penetration. So let's go to the developer comment. We were shifting the passive's focus away from raw damage and more into critical damage to help focus the class's natural tendency to burst foes down. This change should also help bring up light armor focused wardens, while toning down some of the power that their currently much stronger medium armor cousins have. I'm just not really sure at this point what could be good for advanced species. I don't think critical damage done by 3% is good enough for this passive. I understand why they're doing it in terms of like comparing the light armor or like magic wardens to stamina wardens, but it's like, well that's kind of across the board right now, right? The medium armor / stamina spec DPS, all of them except Maxorc or Sorcerer is doing much better than their magic counterparts. Much better. So why not do it for, I mean, if that's the reasoning, why not do it for all the other classes too, right? And I'm just not sure. Again, we're seeing a lot of this focus on critical damage. I think this is more of a, not a PvE kind of thing in mind. I think this is more of a PvP and also solo instance stuff in mind. Although solo instance, I feel like I would rather take the penetration over the critical damage. So I don't know. I really don't know. I just feel like this is something that needs to be hashed out between the community, the warden players, and developers. Yeah. The Feral Guardian fixed an issue where this bear from the ultimate and its morphs could get stuck in the loop. Okay. Healing Seed, Budding Seed's more fixed an issue where the final heal from this ability was centered on the caster rather than the area of effect. Yeah, I think this is the same issue, or could be potentially the same issue, I think, right now with Master's Resto. Like, it doesn't matter where you place the Master's Resto staff, Illustrious Healing or Healing Spring on the ground. It actually matters where you are at in terms of who's prioritized. So yeah, it's probably a similar bug, or something. Arctic Blast Morph, remove the target cap from the damage of this morph, as this damage is no longer tied to stunning enemies. Okay, that's fair. Piercing Cold passive now increases your damage done by 2%. Oh, okay. Instead of the 2% from animal advanced species. Okay. Which increases to 10% while wielding an ice staff. Okay. Rather than increasing... Okay, okay. Yeah, I don't know about this one. I'm sorry. Let's just look at the developer comment. This passive is currently creating issues with morph choices in the class. Yes, as wardens have a healthy mix of damage types outside of magic and frost. Okay, yes. Many morphs that are meant to focus on damage are either close to or even eclipsed by the more utility-driven morphs that retain magic damage, and the lack of more DPS-focused ice damage abilities since they are predominantly made for tanks or utility. Create a situation where this passive isn't helping the unique identity of ice mages keep up with other playstyles. By shifting the focus of the passive over to generic damage, it contextually gets stronger for the audience the passive is made for. We hope to help bring that playstyle up a bit more. Okay, so I don't think I agree with this one. I think I have a more solid say about this passive more so than I had about the advanced species passive. I do like that they kind of shifted the previous advanced species passive to the piercing cold passive. I think that's great, honestly. So, like if I didn't know about this, I'd be like, okay, well, yeah, that's whatever. But if now that I know about this, okay, that makes sense, right? In its entirety. But I don't know about the ice staff thing. I think this is a really interesting concept to play with, as I said before previously. I think it's something that they could implement for different things in the future, particularly with class abilities, right? I don't know if maybe like kind of pushing or forcing people to use an ice staff to get that extra 10% damage as a warden is necessarily, I think that like toes the line between class identity and pressure, right? I don't know if they could do something else besides the ice staff. I mean, if the concern is about ice staff damage or ice staff DPS, I feel like they should look more closely at the ice staff damage rather than the warden in its entirety. I mean, it just kind of feels like, well, if you're a warden, why wouldn't you go ice staff at this point for that 10% damage done from piercing cold? And it's a really good it's a really good passive, 10% damage done rather than 10% magic and frost damage. I mean, again, it just toes the line between pressuring and class identity. I see where they're coming from with this. I don't know if I necessarily agree with it. But yeah, let me know down in your comments down below. Bow, they fixed an issue where this ability and its mores for volley could only use your weapon critical rather than dynamic. Okay, that's actually pretty nice. Rather than dynamically scaling whatever was higher. Reduce the healing from resolving vigor. Oh boy, by approximately 10%. Okay, all right. Racial pass. Oh, okay, interesting. They're touching on racial passives. Khajiit robustness. This passive now increases your health, magic, and stamina recovery by 90 at their final rank, rather than your health recovery by up to 100, and your magic and stamina recovery by up to 80. Oh, it's a really small number adjustment. I can see why they did this. So they slightly. I mean, they just made it halfway. I mean, you know, honestly, it's like nothing. It's like whatever. I actually have a hot take video I feel like I should make, but I'll leave that as a surprise about racial passes. Anyway, Warfare, this is the only CP slotable getting its change, and we heard about it in the Update 36 combat preview. Reduce the damage per stage of the Occult Overload slotable down to 1037, down from 2560. I feel like we saw this coming when they buffed the shit out of it in Update 35. This node now also applies a random stats effective enemies hit. Okay. Added the cooldown of 1 second to prevent cascading effect. They just don't want you to blow up people, you know, simultaneously. The damage no longer has a maximum target cap of 6, but if you can try, you can try. Right. It's kind of a mixed message here in terms of like the secondary bonus of it, but it's very clear from the primary bonus that they think it's overtuned, and I feel like the players call it out. Update 35, pretty sure. We're toning down some of the burst damage of this effect, as well as prevalence to operate like Vicious Death. Yes, where you can cause cascading booms when you kill a large number of targets at the same time. The star doesn't have enough drawbacks to justify the ease of access to instantly kill large groups of enemies, as well as being a bit overboard when used in tandem with other effects. To make up for this though, we're adding some more self-synergy to the effect, where we reward more booms back to back if you can manage to kill the affected targets within the time frame for the status applied. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that's okay, honestly. At least they recognized that it was a bit too much. Alright, anyway, let's keep moving on. There's some bug fixes, rapport for companions. Looks like there's itemization item set changes. Fixed an issue with Gallon Charge, where the set's cost reduction bonus could fail to work in some cases. Oh, I just talked about this. The Grand Rejuvenation, the Master's healing stuff. Fixed an issue where the set's AoE was being based off the caster, rather than the AoE of the ability that activated it. Okay, yeah, okay. I didn't read this part earlier, but I'm glad they fixed it, honestly. Void Bash fixed an issue where the set could pull invisible targets. I have so many questions. Why are they even invisible targets? Are they just like floating around people all the time? Like I don't get it. Interesting. Or do they mean like PvP? Like let's say I Void Bash a mob of Daedra in Imperial City, and there happens to be a Stamina Nightblade cloaked in my asshole. Well, I guess that's what they mean, you know what I mean? Okay, cool. Alright, so Kargeta, monster, fixed an issue where the visuals... Okay, cool. Mythic items, Dalvra Sabatons, okay. Way of the Air, okay. Trial sets, Boss A's Mania fixed an issue where this set's damage bonus did not apply to pets. Rejoice, Zookeepers. Okay. Oh, hold on, wait, this doesn't make sense. I feel like they said previously that it's intended, right? Am I crazy? I feel like I have to find the patch notes, but I'm pretty sure they said it was intended a while back. I think in 2021, right? Because I think the reasoning was pets don't have, you know, magic pull. But now, okay. I guess it's kind of like in line with their philosophy recently of buffing pets, in terms of like them, like the pets actually gaining your bonuses, like Bloodthirsty. So okay, that's cool. Whatever. No complaints here. You know, people need more damage, so whatever. Manto Sororia fixed an issue where this set could grant stacks while outside of the AoE. Oh, okay, interesting. And that's pretty much it. There's some fixes to the some you know, alchemy writs. Oh, I think they... Oh, okay. So this is pretty significant, actually. They actually removed doing a daily alchemy writ if you did, like, if you reset, like, if you held on to your round of writs from the previous day, and then did them on day 2, and then took the ones that refreshed on day 2 from the new boards, you couldn't pick up the alchemy writ, and they did that intentionally because there was an exploit with doing something like that, and they just kind of took it out of the game. Seems like they are confident that bug is fixed or exploit is fixed, so now you can actually hold on to your entire round of writs if you're obsessed like me with doing writs every day, for at least one day, and then turning them in twice in a row. That's pretty much it, guys. I mean, definitely not like the most earth-shattering update, and I think they really meant it when they just said, you know, we're gonna not change anything too much. I think they realized, hopefully, I hope they realize. I mean, I don't, like, I think they do know, like, without a doubt, without a shred of a doubt, you know, that players were not happy with update 35. There is no, like, there's absolutely no way. From what I've seen, you know, there's no way. So I think they just said, okay, let's just take a step back, not do too much, and let's see how update 35 affects the rest of, like, the game for maybe, I don't know, up until quarter 1 or quarter 2, quarter 3 of next year. I am personally predicting, as I said on the previous podcast featuring our special guest Kozen on the Yaskudi podcast with Alywels, I think the next big shakeup or system overhaul / system introduction will probably occur in quarter 1 or quarter 3 of 2023. I think if you want to prog something like a trifecta, like one trifecta or two, depending on your group skill level, you could probably aim for it, depending on, like, again, the skill level and stuff, for update 36, because it is quarter 4. You know, this is what we're stuck with. Quarter 4 is gonna be the longest. Quarter 4 is always the longest, you know, patch duration, because of Christmas, because of because of the New Year and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I'm not exactly sure how to feel about some parts of the patch notes. I just feel like none of this really matters in terms of the long term. Like, I don't really care about the ramifications of update 36 or even update 38. I just want to know, like, what's the foundation going forward? Was update 35 it? Was update 35 kind of like the last shakeup to some of the foundational aspects of the combat system? Do they, like, can they change things they want to creatively envision or achieve by not changing too much? Like, there's a lot of things. There's my primary question, really, going forward, regardless of what the next patch notes are for week 2 or update 38 or update 45, was update 35 kind of like it? And I would just like to know that as a consumer or player, honestly. It's nice that we're getting really interesting stuff. I just want to know if there's going to be a big shakeup, but I think there will be. And we'll see. I hope for more communication on that thing, only that thing, because I feel like that thing will just be enough for everybody, in my opinion, because it's like, well, now that you've clearly communicated what the next big step is, or what the vision is, or what the roadmap is, it's kind of like, okay, well, that's it. Like, you just stick to it, and I think everyone can respect that. Really, I do. Otherwise, for update 36, it seems pretty tame. Not much is gonna change too much. I think there will be some contention around the Warden class as usual. Mythics may be a little bit busted as usual, but yeah. Thanks for watching, and hopefully, again, you appreciated the food, appreciated my company. All right, and see you guys soon. Love you guys.